In this video, I'm unboxing a huge grail. What have I done? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swagglehas. And in this video, we got a huge grail unboxing to do with you guys here today. I am so excited to have this book in my collection. It is a book that I won the other week on a Comic Link auction. So I am super happy to unbox this with you guys here today. Don't tell Mrs. Swagglehas, and it should be a lot of fun. But before I get into the book, if you guys could drop me a like or comment or subscribe if you're enjoying the content, help support the channel, do one of those things, I would appreciate it. But let us get into the fun stuff here. I'm going to do this unboxing. And then after I do the unboxing and I talk about everything, I wanted to also kind of, see if I could add some other value to you guys with watching this video and just talking about the idea and the philosophy of like winning a bid at auction and what kind of like number I determined in my head was going to be the right number for me to spend on this book in terms of like, what was my cap? What was my limit? What did I want to spend for this thing? And, did I essentially overpay or did I actually get a good price? So let us do the unboxing here. Of course, we got all this beautiful peanut stuff. We're just going to get rid of this. Gonna go right here. I'm gonna look down. Okay. Here we go. Well, it is another slab, guys. I am adding another slab to the back wall, and oh baby. Oh yeah. Okay. Here it is. Oh, okay. We gotta. Whoa. Can't spoil it yet. I gotta take out this little receipt here. Of course, this is what I got from Comic Link. And I will take it out of the slab bag here. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the book that I'm adding to my grail on my wall in my collection is X-Men #4, first appearance of Toad. You guys know me, I love B-tier villains, and Toad is one of the great villains. I am so ecstatic to have him in my collection. I think there's some other factors to this book, like, I don't know, something with Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver or whatever, but Toad is really no, of course, I'm just kidding. Obviously, guys, first appearance of Scarlet Witch, first appearance of Quicksilver, second appearance of Magneto, first appearance of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, which include Toad and Mastermind, and this book right here, I am ecstatic to have in my collection. I got to just take a moment, just got to soak it in. One of the things that's really funny about having a YouTube channel, guys, is that like, I got this box, or I received my comic like, a couple days ago or whatever. But like, obviously for me, I'm like, oh, well, I have to make a video about it. And it's just sitting here and I'm like, just waiting for myself to be able to make the video. And it's just really annoying because I want to open it up because it's like Christmas morning. But this is a book that, I determined for myself that this was one of the grails I wanted to get in 2022 because I do really love, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. I also really love Magneto. In all seriousness, I do love those villains. But I don't actually ever think that I'm going to be getting my hands on an X-Men #1. So for me, this felt like a really great early Magneto cover to own. I mean, this might be arguably even a better Magneto cover than X-Men #1. And I feel like obviously this book is hot in the market because of the fact that, Scarlet Witch is, this is her first appearance, but I feel like the Magneto factor is really underrated for this book's value. So I really do like this book for that reason. Also, when I just think about all the X-Men keys that I would want to have in my collection, at least the early Silver Age stuff, to me, X-Men #4 just felt like the one that that's the one that I want, in comparison to X-Men #1 or Giant Size X-Men or Hulk 181. Like all of those books are incredible books. But when I just think about, what I enjoy about the X-Men, obviously I love Magneto as the villain. I do like Toad. And, we got the Avengers factors here. And you guys know me, I love the Avengers team. And I actually really think that like, Quicksilver is a really cool character too. We're getting the Scarlet Witch first appearance here, but we got to show some love for Quicksilver, and who really knows? Like, maybe Aaron Taylor Johnson will make a return at some point in the future. So I am excited to have this one. 3.5 grade, off white to white pages. Not too bad if you ask me. And actually, now that I have it in my hand and I look at it, I mean, I see a few crinkles, along the middle here and along the spine, and even in here too. So, hey, crack and press candidate, I guess. Crack and press candidate. I actually do still want to consider cracking and pressing my Avengers books over there, because I do think that those could hit higher grades with a press and clean. So who really knows? Maybe that'll be a future video with us here on the channel. But that is that book right there. Super happy to add it in my collection. I will be putting it on the wall. But I now want to kind of like transition into this other idea. And that's this idea of like, I won this on a live auction bid on Comic Link. And really, to me, it was like, how did I determine the price that I was going to spend for this? And what did I determine was going to be a smart fair market value and a smart investment? So let me sort of take you guys through my thought process of how I arrived at the number that I did, and then I will eventually tell you what I paid for the book and everything like that. So I have right here the Go Collect link for X-Men #4. Of course, this is the book that I just picked up for myself. First Brotherhood, first Scarlet Witch, first Quicksilver, etc., etc. And of course, right now, this is a hot book due to the Scarlet Witch factor. And it does really seem like Scarlet Witch is becoming one of the premier female superhero characters within context to Marvel comic books. And it's a little bit hard to actually find comps for this particular book when we look at the values of it and we look at when it was released in comparison to other characters, because it is also that second appearance of Magneto. It is also the first appearance of Quicksilver. So it's a little bit hard to put this, apples to apples to other books in the market. But let's go down here to the 3.5 grade for this book. And this is sort of where I went to and did my research to determine what it was that I was going to be willing to spend for this thing. So we can see right here, 3.5 grade, 200 on the census. Fair market value suggests that it's 1850, but it feels like that hasn't been updated because the 1 year moving average is 2150, the 90-day is 2365, and the 30-day is 2428. So, if we look into, just where this book has gone throughout its journey, we look at 2021 early in the year with the comic book boom and, WandaVision. This hits a record high of 2713, has a little dip back down, then it hits a new record high in June at the height of the comic market for $3,053. That would be the present day value. And then this book actually corrected all the way back down to 1725 in the October time. And then once we start to get the market picking back up again and the excitement with Spider-Man and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, this book has been an upward movement here. Went back up to 2506, dropped back down to 2131, and went back up to 2619. And now it's sort of in question of okay, when we get Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, are we going to be seeing this book reaching that $3,053 threshold once again? And I think that even if we don't necessarily see the peak highs, I do actually think that this book will be flirting with that $3,000 plane. Now, of course, if the comic book market is 100%, ridiculously overinflated and it's totally in a bubble, kind of like how crypto is totally in a bubble and the housing market is totally in a bubble and stocks are totally in a bubble and all that stuff, if everything comes crashing down, then of course logic gets thrown all out the window. But generally speaking, what I've been able to determine with books and looking at things and how the market moves and comparing it against other things all throughout, different grades and different key issues, basically what you see all the time is that books tend to correct 40 to 50% throughout their life journeys when they hit new record highs. So this book's record high was 3,053. It dropped all the way back down to 1,725, which essentially is a 45 to 48% correction. And if we actually look at some of the history of this book, if I go all the way back here to 2014, kind of around when we got, her making on her way to making an appearance in Age of Ultron, this book was at $517, and then it corrected all the way back down to $291. And just kind of doing the quick math in my head, I mean, generally speaking, that is around a 40 to a 50% correction or so. So generally speaking, when you do look at this book hitting record highs, like here it jumps back up to 532 in 2016 after Age of Ultron, and then once again corrects back down to 306. So not as big of a correction overall, but generally speaking, 40% seems to be a consistent number that it often corrects to once it reaches a peak high. So to me, my thinking is that if the peak for this book is 3,053 and then that correction is 1,725, well, obviously then I would love to be able to buy this book at 1,725. But one of the problems with that is that that's just purely thinking in terms of a vacuum of a most idealistic situation, right? The book's going to reach, 1,725 again, and then you'll just be able to easily find it at market for that price. But we all know, when we're hunting these keys in comic books, nobody actually sells it at fair market value, and only one person gets to buy the bottom. That's something you always have to remember. Only one person gets that record low number before it starts to go back up again. And so for me, it's like, yeah, sure, I would love to be able to bid $17.25 on this thing and win the book for that price, but that's not necessarily going to be a reliable strategy because you actually have to want to win the book. So you have to start to think, what are some of the other possible numbers that this thing could go for that would still be a good deal? So if we kind of dig back into the chart here, what we see is that we can analyze like some of these, dips that we see in this book. Of course, we talked about the record peak, which was 353, and then that dropped down to 1725. Then we saw another peak right here, which was 2506, and that dropped down to 2131. And now we're picking back up again where the present day fair market value is 2600. So we kind of look at some of these numbers here where we see 2100 and 2200, which are like new support levels that it actually bounced off of. And that is sort of the number that I started to determine for myself of like, okay, cool. Like 2100, 2200 tend to be support levels for this book where once you hit those floors, people jump back into the market and want to swoop up like whatever that correction may be. And my supposition is that if this book reaches a new record high peak price right before Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, even when it corrects back 40% from whatever that record high price would be, well, the floor will then be lifted, right? So maybe the floor goes up to 1900, maybe the floor goes up to 2000. And so for me, it started to make sense of like, okay, if I'm looking between 2000 to 2200 as a window that feels like it's going to be a safe window to buy in, then that's ultimately where I want to land with my bid. And that's ultimately what I want my entry point to be into this book. So leading up to the day that the auction was ending, basically someone had put in a bid for $2,000. So I already knew that like, okay, 2000 was going to be like a price that I was going to have to compete with in order to win this book. But it was okay because I felt like anywhere between 2 and 22 was going to be okay for me. Ideally, I'd like to be, at the $2,000 range, or ideally the $2,100 range, because remember those floors were at the 2100 level. So I was like thinking, okay, if I can hit that, that's really going to be the key to, winning this book. Then when the clock started to tick down to like less than a minute, someone actually went to 2100. And then really the question for me became, okay, cool. Like, how badly do you want this book? It's like, in an ideal situation, 21 is going to be a good number to generally get this thing if all of the numbers that I'm thinking of actually track with this video. And then I just sort of had to ask my question of like, do you want this? Like, do you want to win this? And if you do, you're going to have to beat that bid and you're going to have to go to 22. In Comic Link, you have to do increments of 100. So there was no other option to go like 2105 or whatever the case was. But then as the clock struck down, I wanted to win it. So I put in 22, and that effectively is what I got this book for. 2200 on the live auction bid. And immediately I felt like a lot more comfortable after I won that bid, because as you can see from right here, if we look at some of the recent sales for this thing, someone actually on eBay right after I won this book made a buy it now purchase at $2,700. And then if we rewind the clock, someone I guess also did a live auction on eBay, won it for $2,600. And then the time before that, in January 11th, someone also got this book for $2,280. So, for me, I determined the number that I felt like was going to be a smart number to win this book. And I also felt like this was the number that I felt comfortable spending where I was going to win it. Obviously, there's some additional fees like taxes and things like that. So it's not like a clean cash deal that you get to win that book at. But generally speaking, that is the sort of market value that I paid for this book. But hopefully that philosophy made sense to you guys. That was sort of how I determined what I was willing to spend for this thing. And it's certainly possible that this book would correct back down to, say, that 1725 level. Maybe it'll crash even further, but I'm pretty comfortable with my assessment that this book is never going to go back down that 2K level. I feel pretty confident in that, and that's why I was able to make the bid that I did. Anyways, that's all for this video. That was just me showing you guys my new Grail pickup. I am super, super excited to have this book. At the end of the day, it is now in my hands. It's now in my collection. Yeah, this is really, really awesome. So X-Men number 4, now going to go on the wall. Anyways, drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and I will see you in the next video.